Alright, so Egiltorp back with another video. Let's talk about some indie horror games today. Okay, so first off, I'm sitting in my car right now recording this, and I'm shaking like a leaf because I haven't eaten all day. Also, I got into a bit of an argument with the girl I'm dating. She said my English is really rusty, and I said, no it's not. So for this video, I'm gonna speak in a different accent every section of the video, starting off with my real fucking English voice, like the way I'm speaking right now. And she's gonna see the video and she's gonna be like, damn, this guy's kinda locked in. Anyways, I'm getting out of fucking hand. Whatever. Alright, so you've seen these things a million times before. Gas stations, a house in a dark forest, dark hallways, abandoned malls, and the classic but cheap, loud jump scares. These games aren't that scary anymore, to be honest, and they've become a predictable setup for streamers to crash out over and getting quick downloads on itch.io. And that's the problem, too many devs are making games for YouTube highlights and clippability. And instead of actual horror experiences, this is the slop they're making. But horror can be so much more than these recycled old tropes and conveyor belt products. And in this video I want to break down what's gone wrong, why it matters for us developers and gamers, and how we can fix this together and breathe some new life into the indie horror scene. Now don't get me wrong, there have been some absolute bangers recently, especially in the retro nostalgia space. Stuff like Buckshot Roulette by Klubnika, Late Homework by Sodaraptor, or honestly most of his stuff, Blood Hall by Ollie, and basically anything Puppet Combo drops. But let's be real, these games are the exception, not the rule. These tropes are everywhere on itch.io now. Isolated gas station scenarios, creepy forests, hallway chases, the fucking lot of it. Horror is supposed to thrive on the unknown, but these games feel like eating slop meals on repeat. I'm not in prison, there's nobody forcing me to eat this shit. Thing is, there's no tension when you already know what's coming in a game, especially in a horror game. Real horror isn't about loud noises or knowing you're gonna get startled. The less you see, the more your mind fills in the blanks, and everyone knows that your mind is the best at scaring you. The less you see, the more your mind fills in the blanks, and everyone knows that your own mind is the best at scaring you. Just look at people scared of the dark. There's literally nothing there, but your mind conjures up any possible thing. We need more creative takes on horror, stuff like Crank It by Klubnika. I know I'm glazing, but he's great. The Keeper by Comp3 Interactive, or even Hypnagogia by Sodaraptor, which isn't even a horror game strictly, but when it dips into the genre in certain levels, it nails it with some genuinely well-crafted moments. Now, a lot of indie horror right now feels less like it's made to scare players and more like it's made to get clipped on Twitch. The design revolves around cheap jump scares, random loud noises, or monsters that pop up for half a second. Those tricks rely on startling you, not scaring you. They're over in an instant with little to no tension or build-up, so your brain never has time to marinate in the scary atmosphere of the game. Real horror works the opposite way. It's atmosphere, pacing, and silence that get under your skin. It's the unease of waiting, the feeling that something might be around the corner even if nothing ever shows up. That's the difference between a fleeting jump scare and an actual scare. The problem is, when developers build for the YouTube algorithm or for streamer reactions, they stop building for players. And the result isn't horror, it's content. Now, something that's been really popping off lately, or maybe for a long time actually, is the horror look, especially the PS1 style games. But retro doesn't just mean lowering the resolution or throwing a VHS filter over your game, or making some, low poly models with horrible textures. Back then, devs weren't making retro horror, they were just making horror. They were working with what they had. Silent Hill had fog, not because the fog is inherently scary, but because the PS1 literally couldn't render far distances with high poly counts. And this limitation ended up being genius because it created tension and mystery, so they worked around it. Resident Evil had those fixed camera angles, again, not an artsy choice. The hardware couldn't handle complex 3D environments. But that limitation gave us claustrophobic framing that made everything feel a lot more dangerous. Now, when modern indie devs just slap on fake VHS filters or throw some low poly models together, it doesn't feel thoughtful, it just feels lazy and low effort. That's not retro design, that's low effort nostalgia bait. Real retro design came from limitations that force creativity. And if you actually want to honor it and get that feeling back, you've got to understand the why, not just the how. Now for some alternatives. Here's the thing, indie devs actually have the best shot at pushing this scene forward. You can take risks, and you really should, but that only works if you stop thinking a VHS filter is scary. A fake CRT line isn't horror, it's just a filter for your game. If you want to go truly retro, actually think about why old games felt unsettling. Limitations created tension. Fog, fixed cameras, grainy textures. They worked because they forced your imagination to do the heavy lifting. So instead of copy-pasting the same diner or gas station or whatever clothing shop in the middle of the forest, try new spaces. What about an empty metal factory at 3 a.m.? An abandoned space station or a fucking submarine? Psychological stuff hits way harder than loud noises. Solitude, silence, paranoia, these are things that make fear feel real. The fear that something is there even when nothing is. That's what sticks with people when the game's over. So think about your sound design, your set design, even how the horror is just implied through context or dialogue. It doesn't have to be a PNG of a monster flying around. It can just be a feeling. And you don't need a massive budget. Unity, Godot, even Twine, these tools can definitely pull off atmosphere if you're willing to experiment. Alright, let's wrap this up, and I'm finally back to my actual accent. The other ones, they take a bit of effort, but this is actually me. Stop making the same horror game. We don't need another gas station jump scare sim or, another copy-paste dark hallways chase. If the formula is worn out. If you're an indie dev, you've got the freedom to actually do something interesting. Take risks, even small ones. Try weird setting, build around tension instead of loud noises. Experiment with systems that make players paranoid instead of just startled. Because at the end of the day, horror isn't about what looks good in a streamer highlight. It's about what keeps someone up at night, replaying that experience in their head, thinking, what was that? So if you're making a horror game, ask yourself, what actually scares me? And if more of us thought that way, maybe itch.io's horror page would feel a little less like a slop fest machine and a lot more like a true future of the genre. And that's basically my rant. Don't subscribe, or do. I don't really give a fuck. And actually I do, please subscribe. Why am I begging? I have like 100 subs. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna get out of my car right now because I'm shaking like a leaf. And I'm gonna go inside and eat some food. Bye bye.